Joanne, I was talking about New York Times, because we all believe that New York Times is supposed to be the paper of record, right? Whereas it's like the most prestigious newspaper out there in the world, right? Subscription-wise, they're number one. They're still number one. I think even podcast-wise, they beat Joe Rogan, I heard, last year. So they're pretty influential. And I was talking to Joanne. Her name is Joanne Drum. And every Friday night, she would invite international students. So I'm coming from South Korea. So we would have this gathering, and I told her, hey, Joanne, did you read the New York Times today? And she just told me, Michael, I do not read the New York Times. I do not read the New York Times. I didn't know what she was talking about. I thought, where do you get your news source from if you don't read the Times or WAPO, Washington Post, or CNN? And she said, New York Times hurt my soul. The narrative, she said she doesn't like the narrative. They're reporting that it's slanted. I didn't have the concept of it because I was an international student. I did not know. I thought New York Times was down the middle. They showed both sides, the conservative side and the liberal side. And that's when I got interested in it, watching Fox News. I watched Bill O'Reilly's O'Reilly Factor. That was my favorite show. I watched it every night. So Donald Trump, you got to remember, Donald Trump did not become president. He would not have become president if it wasn't for Bill O'Reilly. So I'll show you little by little from here. So I titled today's meeting the dynamic between American and Korean politics, because there's a lot of intertwining things that are going on, the intertwined political destinies. President Yoon's impeachment. I don't know whether you're familiar with what's going on in South Korea right now, but he's facing impeachment. He's very pro-America, by the way. The other party, the Democratic Party, is very anti-America and pro-China, pro-North Korea. So I think we should all know about this news. So I'm a 24-year veteran journalist, former news director for Radio Korea. I've been a news director there for a year, political reporter and commentator for Korea Daily for 20 years. And that's who I am. And this is my YouTube channel. And I think Jean found out about me through your mom, right, Jean? Yeah, so a lot of people who are 45 and older watches my show, because YouTube has a demographic. Yeah?
Sir, I wanted to ask a question about your definition of pro-North Korea. Is it like they want a reunification of South and North?
Okay, so I'll take the Q&A after I give my speech. Would that be okay? So this is written in Korean. It's called Yongsuk Won's TruthPolitics. Hi, David. So at Korea Daily, I became a very controversial news member, because I am the first Korean American conservative commentator. So I started my YouTube show, and it went all the way. I had like 130,000 subscribers. I used to get between 100,000 to 200,000 per episodes. And this is my current YouTube channel. And I went to D.C. for the inauguration, Donald Trump's inauguration. And right now, this is the only thing that I'm doing right now, for my YouTube. And I also have a Rumble channel as well. By the way, I'm suppressed by Google. They completely demonetized me because I talked about voter fraud back in 2020. About how many of you think that 2020 election was stolen? Yeah, me too. I believe it is stolen. Whether it's by machine, I don't know. Whether it's vote by mail, but I do know that the mainstream media completely rigged it. They did not expose the story of the Hunter Biden laptop, what the New York Post broke. They tried to cover that up. They didn't want people to know about it. So that's how I think they rigged it, even without the vote by mail. I think the mainstream media, the big tech, they completely rigged the election that way. So, and there was a protest last Saturday. This is regarding the South Korea President Yoon's impeachment that I'm against. I'm personally against that impeachment as well. So yeah, I've been invited to some mainstream news here in Fox News, and this is me covering CPAC. Do you know CPAC? All of you? Anybody planning to attend there? Oh, are you going? Are you going there? It's this month, right?
Yeah.
When is it?
Like February 18, 19.
February 19. Yeah, so I've been invited to CPAC every year, almost too. And did any of you go to a Turning Point USA? Amfest. Oh, you were there? I was there too. I interviewed Kash Patel. I want him to be our new FBI director. He talked about many things back then. I interviewed him because of the Russia collusion hoax. I don't think anybody knows better than Kash Patel. And Larry Elder. You had Larry Elder, right? In your presentation. So he's a good friend of mine. We would have dinner every once in a while. And I'm a huge fan of Larry Elder as well. Hope he would have won the governorship, though. It was so painful to see that. And this was Charlie Kirk. I interviewed him back, this was probably 2-3 years ago. Carter Page. Anybody know Carter Page? Carter Page?
Oh, yeah.
Who is he? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the Trump campaign, the whole Russia collusion hoax happened because of him. And the FBI lawyer lied about him, that he used to work for CIA, and he knowingly lied that he did not know, that he didn't work for the CIA, and that's how this whole Russia collusion thing happened. This is during the Politicon, downtown Los Angeles. Okay, so Bill O'Reilly. Anybody watch Bill O'Reilly? How you watch his podcast, or did you watch his Fox News?
When I was a kid, my grandparents were big Republicans, and my grandpa always had on Bill O'Reilly's show.
Oh, okay.
So I have memories of being at my grandparents' house and Bill O'Reilly being on the TV.
How about you?
Same, exactly the same. My grandpa would blast it every night. It'd be on the volume 70. So he loved O'Reilly Factor.
So O'Reilly Factor was my personal favorite too. I watched almost every single show, and because he was Donald Trump before Donald Trump, like I said, he would be super combative, with the guest, and nobody talked that way. People were always cordial and nice, like Larry King. Larry King used to be the ratings king, but Bill O'Reilly came to the picture. Fox News came in 1996, by the way, and right out of the gate, he became number one and stayed there for 16 years until the sexual harassment situation brought him down. I think George Soros' money was behind all that. They brought down Bill O'Reilly and Glenn Beck. Do you know Glenn Beck? Glenn Beck was also brought down by, I think, George Soros people. They protested against him, boycotted him. So even though when Bill O'Reilly was number one still, rating-wise, but if you don't get the advertisements and if you have companies boycotting you, you can't bring the money. That's how O'Reilly got kicked out. But so Donald Trump, I've been following Donald Trump since 2003-04 very closely, because he started coming out on Fox News on a regular basis, and people would just see Donald Trump as a political real estate mogul or reality star, but he would always come out on Fox News, like Fox and Friends during the morning show, and also Greta Van Susteren's On the Record. Anybody know Greta Van Susteren's On the Record? He would appear there a lot, and they would give him an entire hour, and he would talk about the same thing that he's talking about now: trade deals, illegal immigration, stupid policies all over the place. And I felt like Donald Trump, he has a tremendous skill set. Like, nobody talks like him, when you look at, have you been to his rallies? Anybody went to Trump rally? I think he has this. Yeah. In my personal opinion, I think he is the best communicator in the world. Donald Trump is. I don't think anybody else can communicate like Donald Trump. And the way he talks is, even though he's talking in front of hundreds of thousands of people, it's like you're in a bar with him. He has a special talent, and I felt if he talks this way during rallies, he can win as a president. So I told my wife and my family back in I actually interviewed Donald Trump back in 2011 because I thought that he would run for president. Because he was talking about this birther, the Obama's not born in Kenya, not born in America, he's born in Kenya, that kind of thing, right? Even though birther was created by Hillary Clinton, Trump prompted up, and I felt he had a good chance, but he decided not to run in 2011. So Bill O'Reilly, Trump wrote in one of his books, he had like 20 books. In one of his books, he said he would watch Bill O'Reilly's O'Reilly Factor religiously. So I think that's where his political knowledge came from. Even before, like in 1980, he had his political teacher named like Roger Stone. Roger Stone pretty much introduced him to the political world, and I think he was even considered VP for George H.W. Bush back in 1988. You know, there were rumors that he actually did an interview with Oprah Winfrey, and you can see that on a videotape on YouTube. Oprah Winfrey asked him, "Are you going to run for president one day?" This is back in 1988. But I think it was Bill O'Reilly that really opened the political aspiration for Donald Trump. And you can even see that because they've been buddies. They go to like Yankee Stadium a lot. And I know like Bill O'Reilly was really, he was huge. You know, Bill O'Reilly was really huge. We did not have a conservative commentator like Bill O'Reilly. We had ABC, NBC, CBS, New York Times, Washington Post. Nobody talked like him. And he was very logical, the way, you know, his approach. And also at the same time, the way he talked, he didn't demean people. The way he talked was very, like, he talked like a regular folk, you know. I mean, it's not like, he wasn't like too sophisticated for people to understand what he said, what he was saying. So I think Donald Trump learned a lot of his communication skills from Bill O'Reilly, and he did a history tour. Do you know that when Trump lost his election back in 2020, did you know that Donald Trump and Bill O'Reilly toured cross country? Did anybody know about that, or you had no clue? This is how tight they are. They've known each other 30 years. So if you watch a lot of O'Reilly Factor, I mean, now it's not O'Reilly Factor. He has his own podcast. It's called Bill O'Reilly Channel, I think, O'Reilly Channel. If you watch his channel, you get a lot of inside scoop, because I think Trump even invited him to Mar-a-Lago 2 weeks ago during a very important meeting with his potential cabinet members, and he handpicked Bill O'Reilly to come in, come join the meeting to hear the back and forth and going around, what kind of conversation was going on. And O'Reilly said it was one of the most impressive meeting that he has ever been to. You know, how Trump was so on top of things compared to back in 2017, his first term, how he was on top of things, like compared to Joe Biden, and that's why I wanted to. A lot of so if I have to say who influenced me the most as a commentator or journalist, it would be number one, Bill O'Reilly, and number two, it would be Bill Maher. Do you know Bill Maher? Real Time with Bill Maher. So yeah, I think he was somebody who he made you think. There was a show called Politically Incorrect back in late 90s, early 2000s. He got fired, by the way, but because he would go crazy. He said that, America, the terrorists who attacked 9/11, they were brave enough to stick around to, in the plane when it crashed the buildings, and he got fired the next day. But Bill Maher was also somebody who would bring ideas or agendas that other hosts wouldn't. So those two Bills influenced me the most. Bill O'Reilly from the right and Bill Maher from the left. And Rush Limbaugh. Anybody knows Rush Limbaugh? Have you listened to Rush Limbaugh?
I actually.
You did? I'm surprised.
Yeah, I actually listened to his archive from 2006. I listened to probably 50 hours.
Oh, okay. So Rush Limbaugh is the most influential conservative figure, and I started listening to him in 2016. I kind of, came late to the game, but before Fox News, Rush Limbaugh was the only entity that people would go. So AM radio. Do you guys listen to AM radio? So AM radio is the, Rush Limbaugh popularized AM radio, and 30 to 40 million people would listen to Rush Limbaugh, and that's how Roger Ailes got his idea to create a TV station like Rush Limbaugh show, and created Fox News back in 1996. But Rush Limbaugh, I think he was probably the most influential. I mean, these podcasters, they all came out because of Rush Limbaugh. We all owe it to him. Yeah. So we all remember Stop the Steal, right? Right? Stop the Steal, the January 6th. Any QAnon believers here? I saw some frogs here. Is it Pepe, right? Huh? Any QAnon believers here? So in Korea, I know a lot of QAnon believers. David, I think you remember last year when I gave a speech, Asian American Freedom Pact. Remember that? Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even in that setting, there were a lot of QAnon believers there as well. But, so Stop the Steal. We all think that it was rigged, right? 2020 presidential election, right? It was rigged somehow, and they changed the voting system without going through the legislature. The Secretary of State's changed the swing states, right? And vote by mail was rampant, and I believe that they rigged it in so many ways. You know, with even Mark Zuckerberg investing in $419 million in these swing state counties. And I think in this time around, why do you think this time Trump won? Even though, do you think, I want to ask you a question. Why do you think Trump won this time if they still rigged it?
Well, I don't think they rigged it per se. No.
You don't think they rigged it?
No, I think he won because, like he said, it was too big to rig.
Yeah, too big to rig. That's what I'm saying.
People just didn't show up for Kamala Harris like they did back in 2020.
Oh, so you believe that 2020 election was not rigged?
No, I do believe there might have been information withheld that made people vote a certain way, but I don't believe it was rigged.
Okay, all right.
I'm also kind of of the same opinion. I don't think it was rigged in the way of changing numbers of the ballots and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of the state laws that they changed, in violation of their own state constitutions, essentially social media colluding and also news colluding with each other. I think you could say, yeah, maybe it was rigged against him in that way, with the organizations colluding against him. But I think this time around it was different is because I think alternative media has taken off in the last few years, and especially because...
So you think you actually think that Trump got much more popular compared to 2020?
Yeah.
That's why they won. Okay, that's a good point.
There's no way they can rig 8+ million votes. How are you going to rig an additional 8?
So, but isn't it hard to believe that Joe Biden got 81 million votes?
I mean, I think it's
it was COVID. Everybody was...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is vote by mail. It's ridiculous. You had 2 months to vote. I think, but we can have this debate.
I agree with you on that. Votes should be done
exactly.
Maximum,
yeah.
a week before.
Even the congressional election that happened in 40th district. Michelle Steele, that went on
how many weeks?
3 weeks.
That's just California's bad.
I mean, so.
Yeah, votes, Florida was done with this. Florida's the third most populous state, and they were within 6 hours.
Yeah, but I also think the Republican National Committee also did a good job. Laura Trump. Yes. So she vowed to prosecute anyone who cheats in an election, and I think they did. They hired 2,000, 3,000 lawyers. I understand, right?
They were very good. Challenging the election, trying to change rules.
Exactly. Yeah.
2020, they just did not.
Exactly. So right now, I'll go and dive into South Korea's situation. So South Korea president declared emergency martial law. Professor Penn, I bet you know about this story too as well. I mean, it caught me off guard too, because martial law, it automatically kind of conjures ideas of military dictatorship. And Korea faced military dictatorship back in the 80s and the 60s. So immediately everybody disapproved of his martial law. But one night later, he became a superstar among the conservative movement because he talked about voter fraud. And I've been hearing voter fraud issue in South Korea since 2020. Everybody who I met was conservative. If you were a conservative, they talked about, hey, Michael, did you know in South Korea the election is all fraud, rigged and voter fraud is rampant? And I consider that as a conspiracy theory until President Yoon talked about it, and that is not picked up by the mainstream media here. They just translate the mainstream media in Korea and portray him like this lunatic, who's crazy about dictatorship or something like that. They portray him in a very negative light. So I wrote it down here. I'll just skip this one. So why did South Korea President Yoon declare martial law? So Yoon declared martial law on December 3rd of 2024, pretty recent, citing concerns over election integrity as one of his justifications. And this is pretty much the main reason. President Yoon was definitely not a popular political figure. He became president by default, meaning, a lot of people said President Trump became president back in 2016 because people hated Hillary Clinton. By default, they voted for Trump, and I think a lot of people say the same thing for 2020, like you, that people voted Joe Biden not because they were crazy about him, but that's how much they hated Trump. So in Korea, President Yoon was squaring off against the Democratic Party's candidate named Lee Jae-myung. They hated him. So that's why President Yoon, he's a political outsider. He had no political experience at all. He was a prosecutor. He was the attorney general, but politics-wise, he was a novice. And just because they hated the other guy, he became president by default. And his claims was there was overwhelming evidence of election fraud, and no political figure in South Korea has talked about voter fraud ever. So this was like, what is he even talking about? We thought this was conspiracy theory. The sitting Korean president, he's saying that all the election system in South Korea is voter fraud, and that's what he's saying. So military was deployed. Troops were deployed to the National Election Committee and other facilities with a stated intent of securing evidence of election fraud, because the National Election Committee has not been audited for over 50 plus years. That's what President Yoon is saying, How could you not be audited? They self-audit and they give themselves grade A, But there was another independent investigation that was brought on to the National Election Committee, and they gave it 30 points. They gave it pretty much like an F. So this is a reason. I wanted you to all know why why President. Did anybody know that President Yoon declared martial law because of voter fraud? Well, you knew about it. Okay, so that is the main reason. Yeah, and that's the reason why he became a superstar. People didn't like him. All the conservatives that I knew, or even the PPP part, the People's Party, they did not like President Yoon because they thought that he was not a conservative, that he was actually, his wife, Kim Gun-hee, she's also involved in a lot of corruption situation right now. So, but ever since he talked about voter fraud, that's when all the conservatives are gathering right now. There's like millions of people almost every day on the streets protesting right now. That right now Korea is in complete chaos. So here, President Yoon impeached by the National Assembly impeachment process. 200. So there are 300 assembly members in Korea, and it requires 2/3 majority if you want to impeach the president. So the impeachment was based on charges that Yoon overstepped his authority and violated the Constitution with its martial law decree. Constitutional Court of South Korea has up to 180 days from the date it receives the impeachment case to make a decision on President Yoon's impeachment. The case was submitted to the court on December 14th of 2024. So Yoon impeachment has to be decided June 12th of 2025. Believe me, if he gets impeached or if he doesn't get impeached, Korea will be in chaos like never before. Korea, because the left-wing people, they really hate him. They think he should be impeached just by declaring martial law. They think that he's a dictator, that he wanted to take over the entire country, even the media and all that. So they want him out. How dare he How dare you even declare martial law? That's how the left-wing people are thinking about him. The right-wing people are saying, no, he's trying to preserve Korean democracy. He's trying to protect the election system. We cannot have voter fraud. With voter fraud, there is no democracy. So they believe, a lot of conservatives believe, around 70, among 300 parliament members, 70 of them were elected illegally. So that's how they gained the majority. So this is like a huge political fight that's going on every single day, every single moment right now. If you go to any Korean politics YouTube, they're all talking about this every day. But I believe it's not going to be June 12th. It's going to be pretty much next month. I think next month it's going to be decided.
What makes you think that?
Because so I have to go to the Constitutional Court. So Constitutional Court is like the U.S. Supreme Court in South Korea. It's a final say, The Constitutional Court used to be 6 members, but you have to be 9. It's the same as the U.S. Supreme Court. You have to have 9 members, but they only had 6. And with President Yoon being impeached, there was a prime minister that was the acting president. He refused to put in Constitutional Court, so he got impeached again. So altogether, there has been like 29 impeached cases, including like prosecutors and from the Democratic Party. So the conservative side are saying they're like acting like dictators, the assembly side. So, and the next one in line, named Choi Sang-mok, he brought in 2 Constitutional Court, which is pretty left-leaning. And yeah, I wasn't planning to talk about the Constitutional Court. Nobody cared about it. Nobody even knew who the judges are. Here, do you know the 9 Supreme Court justices like Brett Kavanaugh, Amy Coney Barrett, Ketanji Jackson, who I don't like that much, but Sotomayor, right? We all know it, right? We all know their name, Neil Gorsuch, right? In Korea, people did not know that who was in the Constitutional Court, People didn't care about it because the news outlets would not even mention about it. But now they're paying attention. And now what they found out, they're all filled with left-wing people, Democrat Party. So all the conservatives, they know that President Yoon does not have a good chance surviving. His approval rating, think about it, his approval rating is over 50% now. And going close to 60%. So you have a very popular president now facing impeachment. And Korea already impeached former President Park Geun-hye. I don't know whether you know about it, but in her case, her approval rating was 4%. This time it's almost 50, 60%. And even the party going on. So a lot of the Koreans think that President Yoon is pretty much like what President Trump has faced. He brought in, President Trump, I believe that I think he should be on Mount Rushmore, in my opinion. I don't even need 4. I only need 3. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Donald Trump to me. To face up against this international deep state, and he beat them. He beat them. He beat the media. He beat big tech. He beat big pharma. The entire establishment apparatus, he beat them. I don't think nobody could do it. And I don't think there's going to be another figure like Donald Trump. He's once in a lifetime. Not just once in a lifetime. Somebody told me he's once in 1,000 years. And I believe that. There's nobody like Trump. There's nobody brave enough like Trump. Nobody can talk like him. Nobody smart like him. He's a genius, political genius, an outsider. He didn't follow the rules. He made his own rules. And I think, so President Yoon is not that. But the symbol of him became like Trump. Because if you remember Trump's first term, who did he hire for Secretary of State? Do you guys remember? Rex Tillerson, right? Yeah. And who was the Secretary of Defense? Jim Mattis, right? And who was National Security Advisor? H.R. McMaster, Bolton. They all hate him, right? They all betrayed. They all wrote books about him, how horrendous Trump is. And even Mark Milley, his chief of staff. Mark Milley he was also saying that he would inform China just in case if America is planning to attack China. Remember that? Mark Milley, huh?
Milley's a general.
Milley is general, yeah. Joint chief of staff. Yeah, so everybody hated him around him. So President Yoon is facing that. Nobody's on his side, except for the people. You know, I think Trump had nobody in his first term, but he had people following him. You know, like me. You know, I was a huge Trump supporter from day one. I told you, right? I followed Trump since 2003, 2004, 2005 when he started to come out on Fox News regularly. So how excited would I have been when he became president, right? Because I waited like 20 years for him to be president. But Yoon Suk-yeol, right now, everybody betrayed him. So his political allies, you can only count it like 2-3 people, you know, even among the parliament members. I mean, he got impeached because his own party supported that too, okay? So that's how he got the 2/3 majority voted to impeach President Yoon. So I believe that it's gonna be decided before June because I think the court, the judges, I think it's going to be 9 members, and I think at least 7 of them lean left, and they're going to ram it through. They said they're threatening with impeachment. If you're not going to put a court judge, we're going to impeach you no matter what. You know, so the whole system, the apparatus, the judicial system is completely left wing, and the parliament too. And we did not know that. Conservatives was blindsided. We didn't know that the court could get compromised. We didn't even know their name. And so he's facing impeachment. And the Stop the Steal movement is strong right now in South Korea. It's like MAGA, you know. The hats, even they use like MAGA hats. They want to align like Trump, you know, because of what President Yoon is facing, impeachment, and also he's talking about voter fraud, same as how Trump has been talking about rigging. He's still talking about it, right? Even after he won, right? He wants a 1-day holiday voter. You know, he wants the vote results to come in the same day as well. So if you look at this, Stop the Steal, North Korea and China behind it. How MAGA made its way to South Korea. So Trump has suddenly became a very popular political figure in South Korea. Actually, if you look at the entire world, the country that hates Trump the most, which country do you think that would be? That's South Korea. South Korea hates Trump's guts. If you read their media, like Trump is like a monster, even worse than the mainstream media here. His approval rating was 8%, but now he's suddenly having this surge because of President Yoon's situation. See, they even have a Trump sign there, right? Not guilty. And the cap, it's like a MAGA hat, but it's saying impeachment is unconstitutional. That's what it says. The cap. And these are the protests that's happening right now. Visegrad 24. Actually, Elon Musk is following this guy, Visegrad. Do you know Visegrad? Am I pronouncing it correctly? Visegrad 24? Oh, Visegrad? Oh, okay. Yeah, so tens of thousands of South Koreans took to the streets. This is February 2nd to protest against the arrest of President Yoon. The Stop the Steal movement is largely supported by the youngest and oldest groups of voters in the country. Actually, a lot of young people have been waking up. Usually young people would vote Democrat, but now they're waking up and they're figuring out the truth about voter fraud. And also, President Yoon wanted to increase budgets for North Korea espionage and against China and all that, but they gave like $0 won to President Yoon. So President Yoon was pretty much, his hand was tied, and he was very. So President Yoon has been very pro-America, pro-Japan, and a lot of the left-wing people, they don't like pro-America and pro-Japan. They're more pro-China. I think being pro-America actually wasn't that cool in South Korea, to be honest with you. You know, because America being the most powerful country. You understand that?
Because why South Korea exists.
I know. So a lot of these people, they are with you, okay? But the other side are saying, America, they are occupying us. We're supposed to be our own sovereign nation, or, that's their mentality, or we're more pro-China since we're the same race. Some people think that way too. And this is last Saturday at Busan, second largest city. So this is going on every day, almost every day. Korea is in complete chaos. I think it's going to continue like this. It's going to be continuously chaotic in South Korea, probably for the next 2-3 years. That's how I believe it. I think Korea is in complete chaos. I have never seen this kind of thing happen right now. A complete division between the left and the right, like here in the States. It's like we copy-pasted what's going on in here, Like voter fraud issue. We didn't even know that it could be. Nobody talked about voter fraud a couple months ago, but now everybody's talking about it, at least on the conservative side. And impeachment, we didn't. So he's criminally charged, President Yoon. We did not have a president criminally charged in the history of our country, but now we're having a country he's actually facing life in prison or even death. So these are like the MAGA hats. Yeah, the U.S. is South Korea's most important ally. Like you said, an alliance that has gone back decades. South Korean conservatism, which includes Yoon's ruling People Power Party, PPP, we call it PPP, People Power Party, holds strong bonds with the American conservative and evangelical movement, Christian-based. A lot of them are Christians, right-wingers, conservatives. And the liberals many of them are atheists. They are very pro-LGBTQ. It's the same thing going on here, And Yoon's followers have claimed the April 2024 national election, which the opposition won in a landslide, was stolen from them. Not even 2024, but also 2020 election as well. So Yoon said he's going to fight till the end, like Trump, So a sitting South Korean president has never faced criminal charges before. Yoon was the former attorney general for South Korea. He was actually a left-wing party guy, okay? So it's very ironic. A left-wing president, Moon Jae-in, he chose him as the attorney general. But that's another story. How did he become a conservative? That's another story. He was fired, actually. President Moon fired him because he was investigating Moon administration. Because as an AG, you're supposed to be independent, right? You're not. Even though you're a left-wing president appoints you, doesn't mean that you're going to turn a blind side, right? And so they fired him, and that's why a lot of people gravitated towards him, because he was fired and he was running as a conservative. Says he will fight till the end. Yoon is a staunch U.S. ally, tough on China. He's very tough on China and North Korea. Has urged his supporters to do the same. South Korea's conservative electorate widely views the United States as a bastion of freedom, democracy, anti-communism, and the home of a strong evangelical Christian community. So a lot of the real Christians, even you have left-wing Christians here going to church. In my view, how can you become a Democrat if you're a Christian? And that's how I see it, but I think a lot of people have a different idea. And the home of a strong evangelical Christian community. The political right has also long emphasized the importance of the American alliance. They want American troops to stay there, by the way. A lot of the conservatives. A lot of the left-wing liberals want America to get the heck out of their own country. That's what it is. The crucial U.S. assistance during the Korean War in the 1950s and continued military and security allyship. The left wing is widely viewed to be closer to China and North Korea. Anybody here pro-China? Actually, I was a little bit sensitive to this because I know he's Chinese American, but Alex, yeah, sorry, yeah, but you're Chinese American, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because my wife told me, hey, you might have a Chinese American student here, so, but that's how it is right now. In Korea, there's a lot of anti-China movement and very pro-China movement going on. A lot of people, some people in Korea, they're saying, oh, America is over, it's now China's time. A lot of the Koreans do say things that way, especially on the left-wing side. I mean, you can't blame them, right? Because if you look at the GDP worldwide, America is 25% of the entire GDP, right, sir? And China is 19.8%. So they're pretty neck and neck now. So Democratic Party's leader, Lee Jae-myung, I want to tell you about who he is. Lee Jae-myung has been indicted for allegedly being involved in an unauthorized transfer of $8 million to North Korea. You know, so he's been indicted. He's very controversial. Even his, people blame Donald Trump's what do you say, character? That he's too brash. They don't like his rhetoric. So you can't top him. I mean, there's a recorded phone conversation that he had with his sister-in-law, and it's just amazing. You know, how could you even talk? I mean, it's filled with cuss words, expletives, and it's almost unimaginable. How can you talk to your sister-in-law in that way? So anyway, prosecutors accuse him of asking the South Korean company Sangbangul Group to make these payments between 2019 and 2020 while he was serving as governor of Gyeonggi province. The payments were reportedly intended to support inter-Korean cooperation projects and facilitate Lee's potential visit to North Korea. He wanted to get this special treatment when he goes to North Korea. So North Korea supposedly is South Korea's enemy, right? Right? We are a divided nation. The only divided nation, by the way. It's a tragedy if you think about it. Germany, they united, right? West and East Germany. So how could you send this $8 million? So a lot of conservatives are saying, hey, this is treasonous, Okay, can I get to the questions after? It's almost finished, yeah. So this is Lee Jae-myung. I just wanted to show how he looks like. So Lee Jae-myung, who is Lee Jae-myung? Lee Jae-myung has previously made critical remarks about the United States, which has contributed to his image as an anti-American populist. He is an anti-American populist. He doesn't like America that much. These days, he's pretending to be pro-America, though, because he thinks President Yoon will be impeached, and he thinks he's next in line. And now he's suddenly saying, hey, America's our friend, He's changing his rhetoric. And, conservative side can't stand that hypocrisy from him. But Lee Jae-myung referred to the United States military as occupying forces, that they're not supposed to be here. They're occupying here. That's how Lee Jae-myung thinks. A lot of the Liberal Party, they think that way. His comments sparked political controversy, with critics accusing him of distorting history and pushing an anti-American narrative. Some opponents linked his remarks to similar statements made by figures with pro-North Korean leanings. So you can see Liberal Party is very pro-China, anti-America. Lee Jae-myung is pro-China, anti-America. So what protesting going on in Korea, it's all about that. Hey, are you pro-America or are you anti-America? That's what's going on in South Korea. So that's why, as Americans, we should all know what's going on, right? We should know one of our closest ally in East Asia, South Korea, whether this country might become anti-America. A lot of people believe that once President Yoon leaves office, that it's going to keep on becoming more and more pro-China and more anti-America. So that's why people, are protesting every day, and they want to stop the impeachment. And I want to stop the impeachment too. I believe there is a rampant voter fraud going on. Actually, University of Michigan here, I forgot his name. He had a study, and he said South Korea is definitely, data-wise, there's rampant voter fraud going on in South Korea. So at this point, I like to get questions.
If the current president being impeached, is he still the ruler of the country?
Right now, there's an acting president named Choi Sang-mok, so he's an acting president from the same party. But a lot of people think that he even betrayed President Yoon by adding 2 liberal judges, which means, so you need 6 votes. Among the 9 judges, if you have 6 votes for impeachment, he's out. He's gone. And a lot of conservatives, in all honesty, tells me that impeachment is inevitable. And Choi Sang-mok, if the acting president would have not added those two judges, I think there was a chance. But now I think the chance is for none. And now the Democrat Party wants to add one more, because now we're 8, right? You need 9. And that 9th one is called Ma Eun-hyuk. And these judges, they're all in cahoots with Lee Jae-myung, or they're like friends with him. They follow each other on Facebook, you know what I mean? And then they suddenly erase their Facebook account because they want to prove that they're somehow impartial. And and that's why even a lot of the left-wing people have been crossing over to the conservative side, because they see all the hypocrisy that's going on. But I don't know. It's a very odd situation where you have a very popular president now all of a sudden who's hovering over 50% approval rating, facing an impeachment. I haven't seen any country that faces kind of predicament. So that's my answer.
What would you say, because obviously when he first declared martial law, he was seen as a very unpopular figure.
Yes.
So because of the stigma that was the military dictatorship back then, what do you think was the definite turning point of when he started to become much more popular with people?
What was the turning point that he became popular? So President Yoon, definitely he was not a popular president. A lot of the conservatives did not like they thought he was too soft. They thought he was a pushover. And a lot of his wife, I don't know whether you know, his wife is kind of, I would say she's very pretty. I think probably President Yoon's wife, she might be the prettiest president. I should have brought her face, but she did some plastic surgeries, I think. So a lot of females don't like her too in Korea, and she was involved in a lot of bribery scandal, and the way her family built up her wealth has been scrutinized, and a lot of people believe that President Yoon declared martial law initially to protect his wife. That was the mainstream narrative initially, but now it became a completely different thing because of the voter fraud issue, because he flat out said, there's rampant voter fraud. Actually, the password for hacking the computer system, the server, do you know what the number, what it was, the password? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how could you make it like this? It's like you are inviting other nations. And a lot of conservatives believe that North Korea hacked and manipulated the system to be more for the parliament members to be more pro-North or pro-China parliament members to be brought in. And I think that's the case too, yeah.
I'm assuming they have a history of trying to meddle with the South Korean elections.
So a lot of conservative Koreans think that Americans should pay attention because they believe that Chinese government, the CCP, has been involved in voter fraud, not just in South Korea, but also in the United States. Because there has been some report, I don't know whether you guys remember it, back in 2020, Korean airline aircraft stopped by in Phoenix, Arizona. Actually, James O'Keefe, Project Veritas reported this, and that plane was filled with fake ballots that was all Biden votes. I don't know whether you knew about this, and and many people were wondering, how come it's from Korean airline out of all the places? How come it's in a Korean airline air flight? What was the question again? Sorry.
I think does North Korea have a history of meddling in the South?
Yeah. There has been a lot of speculation about that. And what do you believe? Do you believe the Chinese government CCP has been secretly involved in rigging American election or not?
Well, they probably tried to.
Right? Because there has been reports in Michigan, right? A Chinese international student voted, right? And then they couldn't do anything about it. They said, the Secretary of State of Michigan said that it will be counted as a legal vote. So that was kind of odd too, but I believe Chinese CCP is involved. There has been no concrete proof yet, but people on the conservative side has been saying. So there's a lot of conspiracy theory going on, like that the recent report was National Election Committee when President Yoon declared martial law, troops went in, right? The National Election Committee, and they have somehow arrested 99 Chinese hackers. But I find that to be completely fake news, conspiracy theory. But a lot of people now they're just believing whatever they want to. That's advantageous to President Yoon.
So I just have like a couple more questions. So you, I guess we'll just go point by point. So you said that like the DPK is anti-America, pro-China, and pro-North Korea, right?
You're talking about Democratic Party?
Yeah.
In South Korea?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that I wouldn't say everybody, but that's that's a general consensus.
But like, I mean, it seems like they're so like. I guess like one specific point I just want to point out is you said Lee Jae-myung, the leader of the DPK, referred to the U.S. military as occupying forces.
Yeah.
This was only in the context like after World War II.
That's what he said, but a lot of people think that's BS. You know, he changed his initial statement, but for him to even say Keomyoung, I mean, he said that America themselves called themselves occupying forces, but I think that like a conservative wouldn't say that, you know. A liberal would say it, so that's the point.
Sure.
You know?
So do you think he thinks that today, or?
Like I told you, he's changing his tune. He's sounding much more moderate these days. And in Korea, in America, when you wave an American flag, would you consider that person a conservative or a liberal? More conservative, right? So in Korea, all the conservatives, they wave the Korean flag. So a lot of conservatives wave the Korean flag, but now Lee Jae-myung suddenly he's putting a lot of Korean flag in his badge, pin. He puts a Korean flag a lot to be a little bit more moderate. And by the way, I'm not a conservative per se for Korean politics. Even in American politics, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a registered Republican. I supported back in 2008 Barack Obama. And I went back and forth, so I'm not a conservative. Even in Korea, I voted for Kim Dae-jung. He was a liberal guy, but now I can't. At this point, I can't. I don't think I will ever support the Democratic Party here in the States and also the Democratic Party in Korea right now. Yeah.
Sure. So when you said that the DPK is pro North Korea, are you talking about like the Sunshine Policy, like the part about reunification?
Not just the Sunshine Policy. I'm talking about even they call it the peace 평화법안, the peace bill, which means that the war between South and North Korea is over. And it sounds good, but they're trying to divide South Korea from America, because if the war is over, then American troops are not supposed to even be there in the first, right? So,
well, I mean, their party plank even says that the U.S. is a strategic ally. Like, they want to buy nuclear subs from, America.
You mean the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
No, but there was a lot of controversy when they had when they purchased a THAAD missile. A lot of the Liberal Party members were very much against it to put it on Jeju Island. Because why? Why were they against it? Because they did not want to anger Chinese people, Chinese government.
Is this the Democratic Party or just
the Democratic Party? Okay. Yeah, a lot majority-wise. Yeah.
I guess another point is, so you said that Yoon Suk-yeol's reason for doing the declaring martial law.
Yeah.
You made it sound like it was because of election fraud, right?
That's pretty much the main reason.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, the election fraud.
I mean, there's
post hoc rationalization. No, it was
No.
He declared martial law on December 3rd, and in his speech he mentioned, how the opposition parties were blocking.
The budget twos. Yep.
Yeah, they're trying to overthrow free democracy by impeaching members of the cabinet and blocking his budget, right?
Mm-hmm. True.
And a North Korean conspiracy, but then he only started mentioning the election fraud 9 days after.
Mentioning wise, because he did not appear in public after he declared martial law. So that's why he mentioned it 9 days later. But his action-wise, if you look at the numbers, he sent more troops to the National Election Committee than the Parliament, Assembly. So we can know by his action what his real goal was. He wanted to find whether there was voter fraud going on or rigging, some kind of rigging that was happening in the National Election Committee.
Sure.
You're right, but that was the action. his action made people believe that, oh, he believes in voter fraud, and which was confirmed afterwards,
So
9 days later.
on 8 o'clock on the same day, he also gave, his defense minister, which was one of the only
that?
people, like his defense minister Kim, one of the only people in his cabinet that support. There's like 19 people in the cabinet, and I think the majority of them didn't support.
Okay, this will be the last question I'm going to ask, I guess. More.
So he published a list of people to arrest, and he gave it to his Lieutenant General Yoon, and these include the Democratic Party leader, Lee
Oh no, so that is considered fake news among the conservatives. So even Yoon Sung-yeol said he did not ask for arresting.
Yeah.
So any other question?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for the election fraud, which election was fraudulent, and what is the evidence of that?
2020 Parliament election, and so it's pretty much.
He was president in 2022.
Yeah. So President Yoon, he won. So many people are saying, hey, you won the election that you claimed that was rigged, 2022. Yeah, that you won this election. What are you even talking about? You won the election, but President Yoon is saying, so he won by 0.73 percentage points. But President Yoon is saying, I should have won by double digits. And a lot of the poll numbers kind of showed more of a disparity. And usually when you lose, when a certain party, a presidential candidate, they lose by 0.73 percentage points, you're supposed to ask for a recount. But they didn't. So a lot of the conservative side think that in itself, they're admitting that voter fraud did happen. That's the reason, even with voter fraud. So too big to rig. What I'm saying is President Yoon did the too big to rig thing before President Trump back in 2022. Yeah.
I have a question that's more about ideology. I just want to get a time update. It's 8:50, so I'm not sure I will put you on cutoff. But for my question is, I was wondering what are the biggest differences ideologically between U.S. conservatives and liberals versus Korean conservatives and liberals? I know specifically after the U.S. election when Trump won, the 4B movement from South Korea, which is associated with South Korean progressivism, kind of made its way over to the U.S.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned election fraud, which was a big talking point among the right in the U.S. So I was just wondering if you could break down some of the big similarities and differences between
The concern. Yeah.
both.
So I used to always say on my political YouTube show that I started in 2017, I used to say, just because you're liberal in South Korea doesn't mean that you're liberal here in the States. And a lot of the liberals in South Korea support Trump, or vice versa. A lot of conservatives here, a lot of conservatives in South Korea supported like Kamala or Joe Biden. That would happen too. I think now it's becoming, if you're if you're conservative in South Korea, you're a conservative here in the States, and vice versa for liberals. In the States, being pro-life is one of the big pillars, right, of being a conservative. In Korea, we don't even talk about that. I don't think they don't even talk about abortion. Abortion has never come up, by the way. In America, that's one of the biggest issues, right? In Korea, I have never seen a political debate around abortion or pro-life or pro-choice. So, pardon?
When is it set?
I think a lot of abortion is happening in South Korea. In all honesty, I think South Korea is probably one. I did a report about it as a reporter. I think South Korea exports more babies than any other countries. I mean, back in it might be different now. That shows that a lot of people are having sex without protection, and probably they might be pro-lifers. Who knows? I mean, they deliver their babies, but they don't want to take care of them, so they're exporting these. So that's why you see a lot of Korean adoptees. They used to be the number one baby exporting country. But to answer your question, I think now they're pretty similar. Now the conservatives in Korea, they love Trump, like you just saw, the red hat, and the liberals in Korea, they hate Trump. They hate America. I mean, I can't say everybody, but the general consensus and the feeling is, the connotation and the feeling is, they're more pro-China, I would say. And the conservatives are definitely pro-America. They want American troops to stay, and they want America to buy. And also economically, people are saying that too. So let's declare, just on paper, it sounds better. The war's over between South and North. Let's declare, and if the war is over, supposedly, the peace bill goes through, which actually went to Congress yesterday, I think. Brad Sherman, our congressman here in California, he actually had a bill of peace bill of declaring that the war is over. So a lot of the conservatives and even economic experts are saying that if American troops leave Korea, South Korea, that the country would fall into chaos because there is no protection by America and North Korea. By the way, they're nuclear power. South Korea does not have a nuclear weapon, so they think the economy would tank. And in South Korea, there's a lot of multinational corporations. South Korea is one of the largest economic power, right? They're like number 8, 9, right, around that range. I mean, they're one. Actually, if you go to South Korea, I'm not trying to demean America, but they look like richer than America. Most of the cities there. Right, Jin, you agree, right? Much safer. The standard is, I would say, they live in a higher standard compared to here in the States. I mean, you see so many homeless. I don't see that many homeless in South Korea, and so that's in play as well. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And then I would say we could do maybe like 1 or 2 more.
Okay. Any last questions? A couple or two? Okay.
Yeah, just as a follow-up to the arrest list. So
you guys are laughing.
So, I mean, even like conservative sites like the
Chosunilbo is a lot of conservatives view Chosunilbo not being conservative these days.
I mean,
because they were for impeachment. Now they're pretty much saying if you're for impeachment, you're not a conservative. That's the line now.
There's like the NIS deputy Hong. Yeah, I mean, he's coming out and saying like he's testifying against you, right? Like
a lot of them are, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
So I told you, President Yoon, I told you, he does not have a lot of political allies. Even the conservatives admit that. Hey, you have everybody against you. So what does President Yoon have? He has only one entity that's supporting him, the people. Other than the people, his approval rating, like hovering around 50%, he has nothing. So that's why I think legally he's in a predicament. I think there's a very high chance, actually. I talk with a lot of conservatives in Korea. So conservatives in Korea, they're not the newspaper people like you talked about. Chosunilbo is not. It's the YouTubers. In America, you had social media, X. No, X was even compromised too, right? When Jack Dorsey was at the helm. They had Rumble, alternative media like Breitbart or Red State, these alternative media that was going on. In Korea, other than YouTube, you don't have anything. So a lot of conservatives are gravitating towards YouTube, and they think 조선일보, 중앙일보, 동아일보, those are like New York Times, WAPO, and Wall Street Journal in South Korea. They're all liberal. They consider them as, a liberal left-wing outlet, even though they might consider themselves conservative, like 조선일보, which is a #1 newspaper. They're not subscribing to them anymore. They're gravitating towards YouTube, and I think there's a huge shift going on in the media landscape. Like in America, I think who believes the mainstream media? Do you believe the mainstream media? Do you believe New York Times, WAPO, CNN? I don't. I think they're fake news. They concocted Russia collusion. They concocted Russia collusion, especially regarding Trump. I think Trump's side told the truth 90% of the time, and the other side told disinfo and misinfo. But what do? They always accuse us to spreading of disinfo, misinfo, right? Regarding the vaccine or whatever, right? Russia collusion, everything about Tulsi Gabbard or about Kash Patel, that these are lunatics. No, I think they're patriots. I think they are patriots. And I think President Yoon is a patriot for South Korea because he respects South Korea's history, her alliance with the United States, and the other party doesn't. So that's where South Korea is right now, and I hope you guys all enjoyed my speech today. Thank you very much.